Sabbath. This morning, I'll go straight into the word. The devotional, I've titled it, Your Disadvantage is Your Advantage. And so if you could join me in Hebrews chapter 4, I'm going to read verses 14 to 16. So Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 says, "Since then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need." Amen. I'm thankful for a high priest who makes a way for my weakness, and that he assures me that I can draw near to him in confidence and ask for help. So I work with at-risk youth ages 16 to 25, and I see time and time again, it is always assumed that these kids are less likely to succeed because of their economic status, because of lack of education, under resources, and unskilled. And yet, I have witnessed time and time again the most powerful testimonies of success from these very students. It is precisely their disadvantages that give them their advantages. Disadvantages such as lack of resources, stability, security, education, and skill is what leads them to strive harder. So this morning, I would like you to consider the following. Is it possible that your disadvantage is actually your advantage? 1 Corinthians 12:9 says that God responded to Paul, "My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness." And it's our weakness that allows the Lord's strength to be manifested and for his name to be glorified. And that is why I thank God for our weakness and our disadvantages. I'm going to look at a couple of Bible characters, starting with David. It was David's small size, which seemed like a disadvantage for him before Goliath. This caused Goliath to be overconfident in his ability to win the battle. But David knew where his strength came from. It came from the Lord. And that allowed David to show up to the battle without armor or weapon, but with stealth, precision, and confident in the Lord's ability to give him victory. We also see Samuel's young age. And that young age would make him inexperienced and unable to become a prophet. But it was his age and lack of experience that led him to humbly listen to the Lord's voice and obey. His listening and obeying God allowed him to lead the people out of spiritual darkness. We see Gideon. The lack of faith in his ability to do what God called him to, because he came from the weakest tribe and because he was least in his family, led him to completely depend and ask and trust in God. And when he conquered the Lord's enemies with such a small army, he was then asked to rule. Judges 8:22 says, "Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, 'Rule over us, both you and your son and your grandson also, for you have delivered us from the hand of Midian.' But Gideon said to them, 'I will not rule over you, nor shall my son over you. The Lord shall rule over you.'" It was his understanding that his strength did not come from him. And the only reason he was able to overcome the Lord's enemies was because he had depended on the Lord. Then we see Moses. Moses said to the Lord, "I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue," admitting to a speech difficulty as well as more serious doubts about his calling. So the Lord said to him, "Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with you, with your mouth, and teach you what you shall say. It was this disadvantage that had made him seek God regarding all matters. And because he did, Moses was able to face Pharaoh. He led the Exodus. He parted the Red Sea and brought the people to Mount Sinai. We see Ruth. Being a Moabite woman would seem to have left her at a great disadvantage in the land of Judah. However, it was that very disadvantage that made the words that she declared and the action she took give great testimony in the power of the Lord. Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." The biblical underdogs illustrate where to find strength. It's only possible by relying on and cultivating a relationship with God that we can overcome, and we can turn our disadvantages to advantages. Overcoming in God's eyes is not just about achieving goals. It's about keeping our faith. It's about persevering through trials. And in the midst of all of that, it's about giving God all the glory. So I pray that this morning, this devotional would call you to arms to recognize that our weaknesses can be our advantage in the hands of God if we submit them, commit them, and yield them to the Lord. Briefly, I will share with you that my calling as women's ministry was one of great surprise to me. First of all, because of my age. I am 41. However, I have been the youngest Hispanic women's director. And in addition to that, my husband is not a pastor. I did not grow up in the church. I came to Christ at 25 years old. And I'd never attended an Adventist college. And all of those things could have been setbacks to me to say, Lord, I'm not worthy. I didn't grow up in the church. I don't know the Bible the way that a pastor's wife might know the Bible. But there was one thing that I did know. I knew where the Lord brought me out of. I knew that as a runaway at 17 years old, running the streets, getting to no good, the Lord had taken me from that place. And he had taken my anger, my bitterness, and my rebellion. And he said, no more. I will sanctify you, and you will live righteously for me. And because I submitted, committed, and yielded my weaknesses to the Lord, he has transformed my life. Within the first year of baptizing, the Lord sent me to be a missionary. And in the last 17 years that I've served the Lord, he has made my home a blessing. My husband is a blessing. My son is a blessing to me. And all of that because I recognize that the Lord could use my weaknesses for his honor and glory. So today, whatever it is that the Lord has called you to do within the Pathfinders group, I don't know much about, but I can tell you camping is rough. So I'm sure you are called to many challenges in this job. Whatever you may deem at this moment that you're not worthy of, that you're not good enough, that you struggle with, that you consider a weakness or a disadvantage, submit it to the Lord and allow him to use that very thing for his honor and his glory. May God bless you and strengthen you on this day. God bless.